I'm going to take a section from the front hairline back to the crown horizontally. I'm going to stretch this section all the way up to the ceiling. Now that's a lot of hair, so I might not need to hold all this at once. What I can do is split this in half and I can start in the front. I'll come back to this hair later. So once I take this section up, nice clean comb out straight to the ceiling, you're going to determine how much of a face framing haircut you want to do. The more angle that you pull this hair forward, the more exaggerated the face frame look is going to be. When you pull this hair straight up, you're going to have a little bit more of a balanced look, and then the face frame really relies on your finger angle. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to take my sections that I've cut, I'm going to elevate, I'm going to slightly tilt towards the front of the forehead. Here's my guide. I'm going to angle my finger, and we're going to cut right into that. Up, all the way in. Okay, so now that I've got this, I'm going to utilize what I dropped just a minute ago, and we're going to continue this angle towards the back. You can see her perimeter in the back is going to be maintained. We normally don't need to be layering below their occipital bone, so if you really look at where this section is coming from, it's just above the occipital bone here. So that's pretty perfect for where we need to be layering. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use that as a guide for the rest of her left side here. Okay, I'm using a little bit more hair, so I'm going to switch my combs to the 452. All right. Okay, so then we're going to take another horizontal section below our first one, and we're going to use some of that first section we cut as a guide. I don't recommend using all of it because that might be too much hair for you to hold in your hand and then creating inconsistency in your cut. So again, a lot of hair here. I'm going to split this down the middle, but we're going to work in this front part first. Clean comb outs. Good elevation, good tension, and we're going to over direct slightly forward while also utilizing a finger angle. Okay, and now we're going to add what we've just dropped previously. We're going to bring all this up together, exact same cut. All right, so that's two sections down the left side. We're gonna do one more just to check and make sure we didn't miss any hair. Didn't look like a lot was gonna be cut, so I think we're about done, but here we go, let's check it out. Taking a piece of my second section as a guide, and I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way down to the perimeter. Remember, we're not gonna really layer below the occipital bone, so anything at the ear and above is good. I'm going to take this section up and we're going to repeat that same exact process. Elevation is high, fingers are angled, and as you can see there's not a lot to cut, which is good because we've already cut that perimeter and it is set. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure the back is lined up. So that entire face framing section was done in about 3. Again, depending on their hair type, you might do 4, 5, 6, or 2. You just work with what you can work with, whatever that hair tells you to do. So we still have all of her length, very pretty. And I'm gonna go ahead and move into this other side now. I need to create a section right down the middle where my very first section came from. I need a guide for the other side to make sure I'm consistent. So then we're gonna create that same sectioning on this side. Front hairline, back to the crown, and we're going to go ahead and just follow the same cut we've been doing. I really like to make sure that my fingers are pointing down and my scissors are pointing up when I cut. It's better for my back and my shoulders. I don't have to contort my body to an awkward position. I can keep my back and body nice and straight while cutting a clean line. We're gonna bring it up, forward, finger angle. Here's my guide. You can see that coming up. And we're just gonna follow that cutting line. You can really work all the way down the back until no more hair reaches, but normally around the occipital bone, again, you won't have anything to cut. Okay, so let's repeat those steps 2 or 3 sections down the right side. So what I talked about earlier, your body position, if I were to stand here and cut this way, with my finger angles going up, you can see that my hand has to reach way up here to cut down. It's just not gonna be smart to do that with your body and the consistency of your haircut. So again, we're just gonna make sure that our fingers are down and scissors are up. So whether you turn the chair or change your body position to do that, make sure that that happens. Okay, here's my guide. We're gonna make sure our fingers angle. We're gonna cut right to that guide there. Let's go ahead and add the crown. All the way up until no more hair reaches our cutting line. Okay, we got one more. We got to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So we're going to go ahead, split some of this hair so I don't have to work with too much. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this hair. All of this directly that is parallel with the perimeter or the occipital bone in the back. And we're going to go ahead and take all of this up, however much hair you can handle. Clean comb outs. We don't really have much, just a little dusting here. So it's good that you have consistency on both sides. That means you're on the right track. If you were to see a different lengths being cut on this side, on the last section than the other side, you know something is off. You need to go back and readjust, right? So everything looks good there. I'm gonna hold the hair a little bit further up than where her ends stop. That way I can have a little bit of room with my scissors to come in, take a snip, and I'm gonna move so I don't cut the same spot twice. That's about 4. We're gonna see how nice and soft that is. What that does is allows me to keep my line and my length while softening up the whole look. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper. Going to keep working down towards those ends. We're going to replicate the exact same cut, leaving a little space between the ends of the hair and my fingers so I have room for my blenders to come in. We're going to start high and we're going to cut in a few spots as we work down towards the ends. This is really customizable. Again, it's going to depend on the density of hair you're working on, meaning how much hair is there per square inch. If there's a very high density, you might need to do a little bit more cutting. And it's also really up to the guest's preference. So I'm taking my second section, we're adding it to the first, and we're going to continue to cut the exact same cut we've been doing. We're going to start up high, and we're going to work down low. Keeping those fingers moving as I cut, so I don't cut the same spot twice. I'm going to do the same exact cut here. So you can see that I'm recreating the same sectioning with this dry cut that I did with the wet cut. That's gonna allow my shape of hair and the weight of the hair to all flow together. So nothing's really contradicting each other in this haircut and style, and everything really works for her. Love that. Okay, so next we're gonna do, I'm gonna change the sectioning out. This is where I separate my sectioning from the wet cut and dry cut within the interior. I'm gonna do a vertical section from her part down to her hairline, maybe behind the ear, just depends on the density of hair you're working on. Get a good amount of hair that you can work with, okay? So I have my wide tooth comb, so I can really comb through. I'm gonna elevate this hair up and forward. We're gonna find those ends nice and solid. What I wanna do, I don't wanna thin them out, I just wanna soften them slightly. So starting in the interior, the part closest towards her section, her natural part. And I'm really just taking maybe 2 to 3, maybe even an inch away from her ends. And we're just slowly softening however much we want to soften. This way doesn't change the cut at all. Doesn't make the hair wispy, but it just makes it flow and more manageable. Vertical section, we're going to take that same piece. We're going to elevate. It doesn't necessarily need to be up high where we had it before, but it does need to be up to where you can see the ends and your cutting line. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and over direct it forward so that we can keep that same flow of weight with the shape of the haircut. Okay, so once I get my tension here with my fingers, I can drop this hair down to cut, and it's not going to change what happens above my fingers because it's already set. Kind of like a little clamp, right? So now I'm good. I can come down here where it's a little bit more comfortable. And we're just gonna have some fun softening this out. You can see her hair is still nice and full, thick. I love to do this after a nice fresh cut, especially when you change the haircut up, because sometimes that blunt line on the ends can stack up on thick hair and look too bulky. Okay, lots of nice movement. We're going to go ahead and go the other side. I know I already did our softening here, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back to that vertical section that goes from her center part down to her hairline, right behind her ear. And we're going to do the exact same setup. So I'm going to pull this forward, elevate up to see my cutting line nice and neat. I just need to make sure that I'm going to start in the interior closer to her part. And then I can work out towards the end and down towards the perimeter. All right, we're going to repeat those steps on this side. And I'll just check the back out before we curl. And I'm going to run my hands through it to make sure it feels good as far as the weight distribution goes. Visually, just seeing where that weight lives in my sections, and I can customize wherever I want to take that weight out. If it's not too heavy here, I don't need to cut here so much, but if it's heavier here, I can choose to cut there a little bit more. That way I'm not getting too thin in certain areas. Okay, so now I'm going to do one more here, going one section past that center back, just so I can make both sides go both ways, and there's balance in this haircut and within the weight of the actual haircut. So starting at the top, and I'm going to slowly work down anywhere from an inch to maybe 3 or 4 inches into the interior. That's up to you. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do before I start styling, I want to take this very center back. I know we're not going to really cut any more layers, but what I want to look at is the hair that didn't reach my cutting line in the beginning. So here's her perimeter, it's fallen out. Here's her interior layers. I just want to clean this up right in the middle here. So again, I'm not trying to create a layer here necessarily, but I want to make sure that some of those ends are off and healthy. Vertical sections, top to bottom, and we're going to bring this straight to the back. Because remember earlier we lifted and some of this hair didn't really make it. So we're just going to make sure that we touch it all today. And I'll do one more section that goes right behind the ear. We're going to bring all of this back. And again, I just want to make sure we're clean. In the center. We're going to go straight back to the wall behind our client. And we're going to clean those ends up just a little.